My bum is on the rail. Bum is on the rail. Look at me. My bum is on the rail. My bum is on the man. Bum is on the man. It's a lot of fun to put your bum on a man. My bum is on the step. Bum is on the step. Don't fall down the step. You might hurt your bum.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it. These babies just saved this lame fest party.
What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net, otherwise known as TWIG, the flagship of stupidity. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and I'm not alone as I trek through this quarantined summer. So you may be trapped in these four walls, or maybe you're wandering the great outdoors, socially distanced, I hope. I'm joined by my good old friend, the man in the command chair of TWIG itself,
Alex, the computer builder.
Yes, exciting news this week. That's right. TWIG is getting a brand new heart and soul. Luckily, I've been able to save my pennies and basically get rid of some nerdy merch. And I've been fortunate enough to get a new computer built for TWIG. Alex has generously been working on this computer for the last little bit, and he has put it together for me.
You gave me a few requirements. Play some games.
Yep.
But be a media powerhouse for when we're doing show editing.
Yeah, because basically we always want to be future-proofed in some capacity. Now, it's not like we're doing a high-end video editing. We're doing always audio, but we do want the capacity to be able to review some PC games when they come in, should we not be able to review them on the next-gen consoles.
Basically, the CPU or GPU that we got in there is designed to play anything that's out there current and recently released at 1080p Ultra, 1440p high. If you're playing indie titles, you can do 4K no problem. Everything that you'd be playing on PC would mostly be in that realm, because any of the AAA titles we're generally playing and review on console. But it also is future-proofed in that the motherboard obviously will allow, and the power supply and everything will allow you to upgrade in the future to a better card if you need to. CPU-wise, a new Ryzen, but you went with the quad-core because you don't need a lot of the higher, multi-core CPUs that are more for video editing or that sort of thing. You're an audio creation person. So we went there. What else did we do here? Requirement was many USB ports.
Yeah, like crap tons.
So we got 15 USB ports, all powered, all USB 3.1 or 3.2. So future-proof for any device you want to plug in. Built-in Bluetooth 5.1, built-in Wi-Fi 6, built-in gigabit Ethernet. So connectivity-wise, you're set. We were able to Frankenstein your old Blu-ray drive because, not much has changed in optical technology. So you can still use that. And then as the big important thing here was storage, not necessarily huge amounts of storage, because you have drives that you can use for network backups and that sort of thing for storing large files. We wanted something very fast, doesn't create, doesn't use up a lot of space or room, no moving parts, that'll last a long time. So 3 SSDs, one Western Digital Black, high-end stuff for the operating system and programs, one Western Digital Blue NVMe storage drive for all of your work and media files. And then we got a traditional SSD laptop style drive for all of your critical backups. And oh boy, is it fast, dude.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting this new computer when we hang out on Tuesday.
when you're editing large multi-tracked audio files, and you know how you have to wait sometimes 20 or 30 seconds for it to populate, it's like 1 second.
Wow.
So
it's
as
gonna
we
be
speak, the real test of this machine was, is it going to be good for audio editing and recording? So I'm using it right now, and this will be our test.
Well, I guess we'll see how it all holds up when it gets delivered to the command center here in Guelph on Tuesday. So to kind of catch you guys up with what's been going on this week, I have been recording a shit ton of reviews. I've recorded like 8 or 9. I'm
You
currently
pulled an Alex.
I did, and I do not like it. Because it's a lot of reading.
Yes. Nobody likes being Alex, least of which, well, actually, no, I like me. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of books on the go for Modiphius. In fact, you should have some reviews from the Conan, the Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of is I think what the line is called. But either way, it's the Conan RPG from them. I got some books from DK Canada, which will be in the next Herd or Treasure, but I'm working on some additional books for that as well. I got some movies. I got some TV series. I actually have a Scooby-Doo board game, which me, Alex, and Blair are going to play, and I'll have a review of that fairly shortly. And then I'll have a review from audible.ca on the Sandman book series that came out at the end of July. So that's a 10-hour audiobook. Just got to find 10 hours.
Honestly, great bedtime listening.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I've always wanted to learn more about DC Sandman because it's one of those series that a lot of, in my opinion, pretentious comic book readers always kind of bring up. Like I remember
like
in the 90s,
the old school, like when people got snobby. That wasn't. I might be wrong, but wasn't Vertigo created for that book because it was too dark for DC
or something along those lines? Like, I'm not 100% sure. Like, in fact,
it was that, and I think John Constantine were originally the first couple on there.
In fact, it's actually funny you mentioned that because I'm actually reading a book right now for review, and it's called DC Year by Year, and I'm going to focus on the 1980s to current, just because I don't really know what happened in DC outside of a lot of major events. So maybe I'll come across the month that Sandman was created and I'll learn a little bit more about it, because it's undeniable that the Sandman has had a pretty big impact on the DC Comics line. So that'll be neat. Other than that, kind of keeping up with what I've been doing. Alice convinced me to get a PlayStation 3. So I'm back. I mostly bought this to play old fighting games before they get delisted from the PS3 servers.
Well, you were having, you had a conversation with me where you said, "Hey, I wish my my fight sticks would work with the PS4, but a lot of the PS4 or like the PS4 doesn't have a lot of the PS3's library on it." And in some cases, like even if you had PS Now, it's not, some of these games aren't available even in that service. So I was like, I have a PS3 that I'm not using. I was only going to use it to play a couple games like that I wanted to catch up on. And then you were like, "Does it work?" I'm like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Also, I upgraded it to an SSD." And you're like, "Oh." And I also said, "Hey, Alex's monitor broke and he's been waiting to try to get a new monitor. Throw Alex some cash and you can have PS3.
Yeah, so not gonna lie, I bought this system primarily for Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Marvel Superheroes, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and the Simpsons arcade game, and the X-Men arcade game. I bought this mostly just for those and some other miscellaneous titles, so I'm really
You were pretty adamant you wanted the Sonic games on there that you owned, as well as what else?
Street Fighter at the ass.
Oh, and the PS1 Resident Evil games.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting back into PS3 again. Plus, I went on eBay, and for $5, I bought myself another copy. That's right, another copy of Colonial Marines, the Aliens game. Because I had the collector's edition, but I have it digital. So all my DLC will just work. So now I get to run around with Ripley's pulse rifle and flamethrower and destroy anything that gets in my way. So that'll be fun. So anyway, Alex, what has been going on with you? And then I guess we will start the show this week.
Other than PC building, caught up on most of my review stuff, but did get a bunch in the mail. Vinegar Syndrome had a package arrive. You probably would have seen on our Twitter feed. Bunch of horror movies for us to go through. Cauldron Films sent us a couple as well, their first 2 releases, American Rickshaw, and I forget the other title, but we're going to be knee deep in Loose Cannon treasure to look at. As far as anything else goes, I was mostly trying to catch up on, games that I wanted to play in the past. And I went back and started playing some more of the RPGs. I started Persona 4 Golden. And I'm just about 2 or 3 hours in. And I went, I'm going to wait till Birdman plays so we can sort of discuss as we go along.
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to start, probably not this week because I have a lot of reading to do and Birdman's going to keep on his obligations this week. But I do intend to dig into that. Plus, I am starting Anime August. I'm going to pick a fairly short series to rip through. Probably Cowboy Bebop to start so I can finish it. I also found my copy of the Cowboy Bebop movie on DVD.
Cool.
So, I'm actually, I guess one final thing I should mention. So I went digging through all my physical media. I had about 1,500 or more DVDs, and I'm giving them to a friend of mine. I'm saying, pay what you want. And he's like, okay. I guess the only catch-22 is some of they're all in binders because me and my infinite wisdom decided these will be easier to store. And they were in my old college dorm, but these things have been with me since 2007. So
yeah,
I saved some of them that I know are hard to find. And I just kept a few for sentimental reasons, but I pared down over 1,500 discs to about 120 or so. So
yeah, good. And the only other thing I did was since the last fall, I hadn't seen my grandmother because just timing wise was difficult, and then of course with COVID, but enough time had passed that it was like, hey, it's been almost a year, so I made sure I did a quick visit with her, had lunch, and you'd be surprised how happy the elderly are when they finally get to see people again now. Like phone calls are one thing, but just doing a socially distanced visit was enough for her to be smiling ear to ear. So that was good. And that's pretty much been it for me, man.
Good. So coming up on this show, we always have your usual news and commentary from the world of the weird, strange, and of course things that are happening in and around the world, because this is the dumpster fire that never ends, but we do bring you the reviews that you can use. Coming up this week, we have a review of a movie that will be hitting theaters or VOD, depending on where you are, and I believe that is Unhinged, or Fat Russell Crowe movie.
Yes, we watched it. I'll be doing the review, but we watched it, and give yourself a one line of what you thought of it just right now, and then we can go into the real review when I do it.
Surprisingly entertaining. Pay attention to my intonation in my voice with that one. Then the other reviews we're going to be talking about is the latest addition to Star Trek Adventures from Modiphius. I stuttered there for a second, but they sent me the player characters for the television series Enterprise. So if you want to run around with Scott Bakula and Commander T'Pol, you can do that. And finally, we're going to make mine Marvel with our good friends over at DK Canada. They sent over the Marvel book, or as I call it in my review, the Pocket Wiki, if you're interested in Earth 616 and the multiverse therein. So all this and more coming up here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. Now it's time to get unhinged.
Come on, man. Go!
You know what a courtesy tap is, young man? Sounds like this. It's light. It's friendly. I'm sure that's what your mom meant to do.
No, it's not. Mom!
Having a kind of a hard time lately. I'm sorry. Accept my apology?
Just ignore him.
Well, if you could just do the same, we could press reset.
I don't have anything to apologize for. Can you go, please?
Over the weekend, Birdman and I had a chance to watch a screener for an upcoming theatrical and video-on-demand release. I'm not exactly sure. Depending on what country and what part of the country you're living in, it'll be either theatrical or it'll be direct to VOD release. That is Unhinged, the Russell Crowe movie that was advertised at one point to be the first big picture back in theaters, but we all know that's not really feasible in most parts of North America just yet. So we had a chance to see it ahead of time. It is, as a disclaimer, it was a screener copy, so it was the finished movie as far as color, visuals, all that sort of thing. But we did have to watch it in a format that was not the most ideal for the best cinematic experience, in that it had to be in a browser window, watermarked, which is a standard practice where they, so you can track who's watching what. So it was a little distracting, but it wasn't as obtrusive as some other screeners have been. So we were still able to enjoy the movie fully. And please note that it was also a stereo release only, so we didn't get to review how the audio mix was on it. That being said, it seemed to be pretty good at best, and I imagine it would be even better in surround sound with all the chaos happening around in it. So, what is Unhinged? It is a classic 90s style revenge thriller. Think Falling Down meets something like a Mel Gibson movie would have been back then. It is a person who has lost, not lost their faculties completely, but has completely gone over the edge, played by Russell Crowe, who it almost feels like is going out of his way to punish people that he sees doing him wrong, but it almost feels like he himself is waiting for it to happen. And then it is about a mother and son going through some hard times that pass him on the street and honk a horn at him that he doesn't take too kindly to. And when they refuse to apologize for it, he decides to make their life a living hell to the point of extreme violence. I don't want to spoil much of the movie because it is entertaining. It is a good movie. You'll see a lot of reviews out there that are mixed, saying it's, maybe too cruel or too one way or the other. I found it to be just a fun, crazy, old school action thriller movie that I know like my parents would love too. So we had a really good time with it. It's well acted. Even the kid actor's good. Which is, not always great in a lot of these kind of movies. Russell Crowe looks like he gained like 100 pounds for the role. And so we were calling him the longest time. We're like, hey, it's fat, angry Russell Crowe movie. And he is dedicated to it and fully believable as somebody who has gone completely over the edge. I'll only describe the opening scene because it was pretty shocking. And that sets the tone for the movie. It does have a montage sort of explaining how road rage has become bigger and bigger, and it's become an epidemic. And it starts out with Russell Crowe pulling up to a house at nighttime, walking up to the door, slamming on it with a hatchet and hammer. The person opens the door, and he hatchets them to death in front of the camera, and then kills the person's wife, then douses them with gasoline and sets their house on fire with them in it. And that's how they set up his character for the movie, and it only goes crazier from there. There were moments where Birdman and I watched and went, whoa! And it's been a long time since we've had to do something like that and just been genuinely shocked or taken aback by a theatrical feature. And it was well worth the watch. It'll be interesting to see when it does hit VOD, what the quality looks like when you're not watching it in a browser window, when it's in, full 1080p or 4K high def surround. I have a feeling it'll be even better, and I'd love to get a chance to watch it when that happens. I would also like to see some special features, like some of the behind-the-scenes making of, because this isn't a case of an actor has gained weight because he's out of shape. Russell Crowe is somebody who's dedicated to the craft. If the role called for him to be a middle-aged overweight man, he'll be a middle-aged overweight man for the movie, and it was shocking how different he looked in this. I hope he doesn't, have a hard time losing the weight because, brother, believe me, I know it's hard. That being said, Is it worth a watch? Is it worth a VOD rental? Is it worth picking up? It's definitely worth a rental if you're a fan of 90s action films. And as far as purchasing, we'll have to wait and see when it gets released later on this year, what features it comes with. But if you're a fan of his, and if you're a fan of action and thriller movies, I don't think you can go wrong with it.
News on the march!
All right, guys, welcome back to TWIG, otherwise known as ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the producer. Mike the producer? No, I'm not. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Alex the producer. We're going to leave that blooper in because you're just going to have to deal with it. Because as a famous asshole once said, fuck it, we'll do it live. That's right. Man, I don't even remember that guy's name. Fuck him anyway. So, moving on to the news that you can use this past week. So, if you are watching what is going on in the video game realm, you know it's been kind of turbulent and chaotic right now. We don't know when certain consoles are going to launch because, God forbid, we get a pre-order or anything like that. But one thing you can pre-order now is you can pre-order Square Enix's Marvel's The Avengers. Yay! And it's exclusive to PlayStation 4 right now, and then it opens up to other consoles and PC later on. So, it has been announced that Spider-Man is going to be a PlayStation 4 exclusive character. This story comes courtesy of IGN. Although it was leaked previously, they downplayed it until they were officially ready to release that information. So, PlayStation has confirmed that Spider-Man will be coming to Marvel's Avengers as a free PlayStation exclusive as a PlayStation exclusive. Spider-Man will be released post-launch, so he won't be available when Marvel's Avengers is released on September 4th. In a new PlayStation blog, Marvel's Avengers confirmed that Spider-Man will be added to the playable roster in early 2021 at no additional cost to anyone who owns the base game. As previously leaked, Spider-Man will be exclusive to PlayStation owners. A leaked retail listing previously seemed to indicate Spider-Man would be an exclusive DLC character for Marvel's Avengers. The retailer clarified the listing was in error, but that appears to be damage control for the real leak. Marvel's Avengers previously announced that post-launch DLC characters like Hawkeye, but unlike Spider-Man, Hawkeye will not be exclusive to any one system. And I think it's been revealed in another blog, or maybe from Square Enix themselves, that Spider-Man is the only console exclusive character. And I've heard people get kind of pissy about this because you're still paying for the same base game, be it on PC or Xbox, but you're not getting Spider-Man. So it kind of, the argument I've heard is it devalues the game as a whole because you're still paying for the same base experience, but now you don't get X unless you own it on X. And console exclusives have gone mostly away, I found, in this generation of consoles. Like you used to get exclusively on PlayStation, exclusively on Xbox 360. It's been a little less. I mean, I can't recall many outside of Ubisoft doing some Watch Dogs missions and what do you get for Activision? Well, I guess COD stuff would launch exclusively on PlayStation for a little bit.
Entire modes.
Yeah. Oh, right. Because Spec Ops doesn't get unlocked for Xbox owners until like October. Trust me, you're not missing much. It's still not fixed.
Now, here's my hot take. So what? Most people aren't going to be buying an Xbox Series X anyway. Have you seen all the market trends saying that the PS5 is going to sell either 2 to 3 to 1? If you want a boxed or you want a box to play on, it's going to be the PS5. There's not going to be that many Xboxes even available at launch to begin with.
Yeah,
Sony has committed they're going to have 10 million, between 10 and 12 within the first 2 months available. There's not going to be that many Xboxes, and it's like, and if you want to play it via Game Pass or whatever, cool, big deal. It's like, I don't get that character. Well, then you gotta buy that system. Big deal. I'm sorry, it's a new console launch.
I mean, Sony. Obviously, now one of the things that hasn't been said is, will he stay exclusive to PlayStation? Because it could be
I guarantee you he will.
Probably, yeah. I mean, at most, maybe a 1 year window. Maybe.
Here's how you'll be able to tell whether or not he stays exclusive.
If it's the Insomniac design.
If it's Miles.
Yeah, if it's Miles or Peter, that'll be telling.
If it's Miles, it will be exclusive permanently. Yes. Because that's what they're trying to market with the new game. I will bet you that this is to tie in to the Miles Morales game coming out.
I don't know whether Miles Morales has ever worked with the Avengers. I know Peter has.
It
like
won't.
that's how much.
I was going to say it won't matter.
Yeah, he'll be in the
what they're going to. It's going to. They're going to try to market Miles Morales as the PlayStation Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and that's who they're going to use. And if it's a regular Peter Parker, then it's possible it's a timed exclusive, but don't bet on it. And I've seen people complain and say, "Well, Sony doesn't own Spider-Man." It's like it doesn't matter. Sony's willing to spend whatever money they want to get this done. Don't be surprised if some of the funding for the game itself came from Sony.
It wouldn't surprise me, actually. I was going to pre-order on Xbox, but you know what? I'm glad I went with PlayStation 4 because I wanted to get into the beta right away. It sucks none of your unlocks carry over.
Well, and this was telling too, the fact that the beta came to PS4 first.
Yeah.
Sony has their hands in this game. So, so what if the PS5 version comes later than the Xbox Series X, if the Xbox Series X is going to be the inferior version?
Mm-hmm. So I guess we will wait and see. So our next story comes courtesy of The Escapist, and it has been updated to rumor. It hasn't been officially confirmed. Alex, you follow this more so than me, but it is rumored that the Orville Season 3 will be the end of the series. I
hope not. I haven't heard much about it, but it's going to depend, I think, on viewership and ratings. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a third season and then make a TV movie to finish it.
So what one of the producers on the Orville, Tom Constantino, has said, he's commented on the rumor saying the Cinema Post article isn't true, but remained coy about the existence of a fourth season. For fans of good science fiction and old school Star Trek, there's some bad news to report. Seth MacFarlane's comedy turned homage of all things Star Trek will not have a fourth season at Hulu. Season 3 will be the end. The report comes from the Cinema Spot, but we've been able to independently verify this as well. If it's coming from The Escapist, I'm willing to believe. Evidently, Hulu and Disney never intended to progress the series past the third season after it moved from the streamer to the streamer from Fox. The only reason the third season was greenlit may have been to fulfill some international streaming contracts, which is sad to hear about a show that has only gotten better as it has progressed. Still, MacFarlane has been known about this fact while diving into the third season. So hopefully the Orville will have a satisfying conclusion, unlike the rest of other cult sci-fi series like Firefly.
Is it possible that they'll just move it to Disney Plus?
I don't know. Because Seth MacFarlane comedy in Disney, I think you're asking for trouble.
But Disney's trying to expand themselves out, right? Like,
this is
The Mandalorian is not a children's show.
True, but it also doesn't have the adultish humor in it.
You didn't see enough of the Orville to really
comment on that. So you are not wrong.
They do not have anything risque past the first couple episodes.
Okay. So it's basically like funny Star Trek.
Yeah, the comedy becomes more like Stargate.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? Like there might be some innuendo, but nothing more than what the Mandalorian does.
Okay, so that's not so bad then. I mean,
yeah, it's a lot less Family Guy than you'd think, especially after the first 2 to 3 episodes.
Okay, so maybe it's something for us to kind of keep an eye on. I mean, I do want to get into the Orville, but I'm kind of wondering if I want to wait till it's done, and then I'd only have to wait like a year anyway.
We're going to be covering it on Future Imperfect, so you better be watching.
Well, that may be you, Aaron, and Steve covering that.
That's true.
But because
Mr. Stubborn Pants won't watch anything we tell him to.
I don't think it's that. I don't just something about the Orville. I didn't like the first 2 episodes.
And that's the problem. We kept saying you have to get 4 episodes in, and then it becomes literally the best sci-fi show on TV.
I don't know. My standard for that is Mandalorian right now, but
it's as good.
Brave words.
No joke. No joke. I don't think I'm alone in saying that. If the listeners were to reach out to you, slap them across the face. Watch that show.
But then again, this is not the first sci-fi show to actually get talked about recently. To kind of segue into something a little less Orville-ish, Star Trek Lower Decks premiered on CBS All Access and Crave this past week.
Hated it.
I liked it a lot, actually.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's really divisive. Like you have people that either love it or people that hate it.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed 23 minutes of Lower Decks I enjoyed more than the entirety of Picard, outside of maybe 10 minutes. And I enjoyed it more than Star Trek Discovery Season 2.
You just like Riker making pizza.
Yeah. Riker making pizza and a Borg fight. That's it. Everything else is stupid. Fuck Picard. And he's a robot now. Eat shit.
It begins the anger. Now, just quickly, how would you feel if Orville gets canceled and they move Seth MacFarlane over to a showrunner over at CBS All Access handling Star Trek?
If you told me Seth MacFarlane would work with the team at Lower Decks, that show would get so much better. Like, I've heard from people who've watched the screener of Lower Decks saying the show, like, the screener was 4 episodes. It gets better. And it's already been greenlit for a second season, to my understanding. So I'm okay with it. But yeah, if Seth MacFarlane gets involved with an actual Trek, it'll be great. Because it's clear that he's a sci-fi nerd. It's clear that he cares about whatever property he's involved in. I mean, Family Guy's been declining returns for years. It's clear that his passion lies elsewhere. So yeah, if you told me he got involved with Trek, I'd be pretty happy with it. Hell, if MacFarlane were to get involved with a big screen Trek, because I hear there's some pretty big shakeups happening with Paramount and Star Trek on the big screen right now. If you told me they tapped MacFarlane, I'd be down to go watch that.
Yeah, because it's not like he has Fox to go back to.
Yeah, he's pretty much, I'm a free agent. Like, he's written his own resume. He has 20 years of success. He can do what he wants. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens.
Well, and Ted 2 made money, so he's made theatrical features that make money.
Yeah. So if they're willing to give him a chance, let's give it to him. I better than fucking Kurtzman. And
yes, the Abrams verse can die in a fire.
Yeah, like, I liked the first movie. In the Darkness was dumb. I never gave Beyond a chance, but I will. And with the Kurtzman and Orchie people who did Picard and Discovery, all that does is make me more and more angry. Like, I think I told this on Future Imperfect. Every episode of Picard, I sat there and scowled for 45 minutes to an hour.
They kill brain cells and then they have the gall to say that they're like, they call themselves geniuses when they make the show.
Get fucking out of here. Like, okay, you have some cool moments, but putting a reference to Mott the Barber doesn't make you a fucking genius.
They also don't know basic writing techniques.
No.
They literally don't know how to write. They know how to script a cool scene.
Yeah, and that's
very, very different than actually being a good writer.
And from what you guys have told me, Seth MacFarlane's Orville is very well constructed. You actually give a shit over an arc.
Yep,
whereas
you do.
Picard, you don't. Like, I can't tell you.
You never ever sit, like, even if it doesn't, it's not next gen, you're not going to have the exact same feeling watching it. There's never a moment watching any single episode of the Orville past the first maybe 1 or 2 where you're not smiling the entire episode. Smiling or crying.
See, that's something I miss from Star Trek, is the feeling of generally feeling good about stuff. And that's what I liked about Voyager. I felt really, really, really good watching it. And that's what Lower Decks gave me. It wasn't laugh out loud at times, but I had smiles and I did chuckle a few times. Plus, I'm a big sound effects nerd. So listening to all the Paramount library show up for certain things, and even things that are very, very specific, were very cool.
Well, you should watch. I know you're not necessarily going to watch all the Orville until it's over. If there's one episode that you should watch more than any, I forget the name of the episode, but it's a time capsule episode. They find a bunch of stuff put into a time capsule that's been floating in space for a couple hundred years, and in the time capsule they find an iPhone, and they find a way to turn it on, and they actually find a way to use their holodeck to project images of the videos and memories from it, and one of the characters falls in love with somebody's memories from the phone.
Interesting.
And it's one of the best written TV episodes, period.
Why don't you show that to me when I see you?
Yes, I will do that. That's the episode that when Aaron, hesitant to watch. He didn't care for the comedy part. He watched it, sent me a message saying, "Damn it, I'm crying." And I went, "Oh, it's the time capsule episode, isn't it?" And he goes, "You son of a bitch."
So, all right, I will give the Orville another chance on Tuesday. Follow up next week for my impressions of that. So, another big story that came out last week, and the story's been updated a bunch of times, but this is the most recent thing to come out of it. This one comes courtesy of Screen Rant, also verified with other sources. Mulan on Disney Plus for $30 is to keep forever, not rent. A representative from Disney has confirmed that the Disney Plus subscribers who buy Mulan for $29.99 will have access to the film as long as they subscribe to the service. And that is not just a one-time rental fee.
That's not forever, though. Forever would mean I don't have to subscribe to any service and get it.
Yeah, that's not liking the wording in there.
Even if I don't have a credit card attached to my iTunes, when I buy a movie on iTunes, I get to have it as long as I use my email to sign in.
Actually, no, they can revoke that if they lose rights to it. I've had movies disappear from iTunes.
Really?
Yes, it does happen. Not often, but it does. The news that Mulan will be released on Disney Plus as well as select theaters at the same time caused shockwaves around the world yesterday. This is from earlier in the week. The move is a big step for the media giant given their live-action adaptation of the 1998 animated movie reportedly cost $200 million to make. The reason why Disney is choosing to release Mulan on streaming is less shocking given the current global coronavirus pandemic. The likelihood of the movie struggling to make back just its production budget if it were just released in theaters seemed high. Now, if fans are able to pay the admittedly high amount of $29.99 to watch the movie at home, Disney still has a chance of Mulan being a hit and making a profit for them. However, many fans reacted with consternation. I've never heard that word before. That they will
only old people use it.
They will have to pay to rent the movie twice the cost of a single theater ticket on top of their Disney Plus subscription, which can cost as much as $6.99 per month. And then the article kind of goes on like this.
They're not, so they're glossing over one of the major facts as to why it's going direct to video. The racism comments that were made by the star.
Yeah, can you explain that to me?
Yes and no. I won't go into too much with it because it goes down a big rabbit hole of cultural things,
stuff that we're not necessarily up on, right?
Yeah, but there's some racial stuff. There's some anti-Hong Kong stuff involved. There's an entire character that was cut from it to appease Chinese censors. The male love interest in the original.
Yeah.
The official reason Disney gave was that they didn't want to confuse audiences or something. It was some sort of weird thing that they were trying to cover it, but the real reason behind it was that they didn't want, because remember how Mulan pretends to be a guy, right?
Yeah.
They didn't want the Chinese government to cut the film or censor it completely or refuse it to be shown because they end up becoming love interests. They didn't want to confuse the audience into thinking that they're into a same-sex relationship.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of social... Basically, the whole movie was made to pander to the Chinese market. And
I mean, I'm okay with a live-action Mulan remake because I think it would look cool.
But it's quickly devolving into one of the poster childs for look at how much the Chinese government is tampering with things.
Do you mean kind of like how Transformers Age of Extinction had an entire sequence set in China for no visible reason?
Yeah, or how every single movie that's released in China now, if it's a Hollywood movie, they have to have a Chinese scientist or person in the cast who somehow saves the day, and they have a requirement that they can't be evil.
I mean, I'm okay with having more diverse casting and having more multinational
No, we're talking, you cannot release the movie in their country until you put the scene in. Huh. That becomes government propaganda and censorship. And that's what's happening with almost every movie produced by the H brothers, which is the big consortium there, that and Tencent, who have basically invested themselves in like 30% of Hollywood. So whether or not it's conspiracy, this is a case where there's a lot of it going on. There's social issues with it. There's racism issues with it. A lot of people are boycotting it, so they're like, we're going to put it on this service. They should probably release it for free, but they can't because of how much money they've invested into it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how this happens, and I
still want to see it.
I'm just not paying $30 for it.
Yeah, I'm not paying $30 for it, especially when I've got a lot of friends on Facebook that are mad at it anyway.
Yeah, and
I'd rather not. I don't want to be seen as somebody who's like, I don't care about your issues with this film. I'm going to pay $30 for it. No, I'll see it when it hits regular. Like, it's only going to be a few months till it hits the regular, service.
Yeah, I mean, I want to know more about this. This is why, and I'll fully admit, I'm not commenting a lot on this because I just don't know.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too deep into it, except that there's a lot of people upset at it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people mad. That much I understand. Now, there is talk that Disney said they're flat out not going to do Black Widow direct to VOD or in select theaters. My guess is that's going to change come Thanksgiving or Christmas time, because the pandemic's only going to get worse.
In the States, especially.
Yeah, like release it international like they're going to do with Tenet. Yeah, we'll wait and see. And just put it on. See, if you told me, Mike, you get to own Black Widow for $30, I will do that. And here's why. I've mentioned this multiple times in the show, but in case you're new, for me to go to the movies, it's $20 in a cab to get there. It's $20 back. Then the cost of movie tickets. For me, it's about, I think it's about $15.
$10 to $12 if it's on a matinee, but yeah, let's say like 15 average.
Yeah, so just around that number out. Now add in Blair. When I go to the movies, I'll allow myself a little bit of a cheat. I haven't had surgery yet, so I have a small pop and a small popcorn. So that's about $80. Yeah, so that's $80 in right there. And that's now, not including something else.
If you budget yourself and you were to go uber cheap, let's say you're not going to eat there, or you bring in a snack,
it's still $50.
Or you plan around it and you go on a Tuesday where you pay like $7.99 or something, it's still $50 to $60.
Yeah. So for me to be able to watch this movie at home in a comfortable environment, in a place where I don't have to worry about accessibility issues like going to the bathroom or other services, I'm safe. I'm comfortable. This is what I need. I do not mind this theater model. And I know people are mad.
Because you got a new TV that was set up finally after your old one. We were able to mount things so that you can see things at a better angle. You've got a surround sound system. And if it's releasing on Disney Plus, that means unless they really screw it up, it'll be 4K with Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision.
Yeah.
If that's the case, and it's a day one release that way, and it's yours to keep in quotes, then it's worth it for you. In your case, if you're somebody who doesn't have a 4K TV or doesn't have HDR, doesn't have surround sound, it's a complete waste of money, because you're not going to get anything close to the cinema experience. You will. I have a TV, but I don't have a TV that does Dolby Vision, but I have Dolby Atmos surround, so I'm close enough, but it's still not worth $30 for me. In my case, I would go see it on the cheap Tuesday for like $8, and I would book, a mobility transit thing that I can do for that. So the whole thing would cost me like $12 to $15. In that case, it's still cheaper for me to go to theaters as long as the theater is fairly empty, and I'm not going to be. And I can see that. Like if I were to see that, hey, the theater's starting to fill up, nope, not going. But if I were to look at the theater app and it goes, there's only 7 people seeing this on a 250 seat screen, I might go see it. But if you're somebody who is in a situation where you're like, I've got a good TV, I've got a good setup, and I've got, let's say, somebody who has multiple kids, or you wanted to split it with some friends, be like, hey, you're part of my circle. Have they expanded it beyond 10 people here yet that you're supposed to be with? I don't know. But regardless, if you were to split it a couple ways, then you're only spending, $10, $15 a person. It's better to do it at home.
Yeah, like in certain situations, I think it's great. I'm coughing. We'll just have to kind of wait and see how it all kind of shakes out. So
yeah, it's going to be an experimental move for them. The reason they can't do it with Black Widow is I think it's too much money involved.
Yeah. So I hope they'll do it for Black Widow. We'll wait and see. We'll go from there. So moving on to I think this is our last story this week for news. It's a little bit shorter for news this week, and you'll notice we're not talking about a big story, but we'll talk about it very, very briefly. It has been made official. Rocksteady is making a Suicide Squad game. The makers of the Batman Arkham games at Rocksteady Studios have finally officially teased their next project, a Suicide Squad game. It's been 5 years since Arkham Knight came out, and not since then people have wondered what the hell Rocksteady Studios has been up to. For a long time, many assumed it might be a Superman game or it might even be another Batman game. Now the rumors and speculation can finally end. Last month, Eurogamer reported on a series of internet domains like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.com that had been registered to a company affiliated with Warner Brothers. There had also been a domain for GothamKnightsGame.com, which according to Eurogamer is a separate game being developed by Warner Bros. Montreal, the studio behind Arkham Origins. Based on the Kill the Justice League.com domain and the bullseye on the back of Superman's head, it seems like a pretty good guess at this time Rocksteady is making a DC game from the villain's point of view. Hopefully it takes place. Hopefully it takes things after the excellent Secret Six crossover run and not the 2016 Suicide Squad movie. Blah, 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 blah. And Warner Bros. Had announced last month it would be holding a virtual fan event called DC Fandome on August 22nd at 1 p.m. Rocksteady's tweet, it sounds like, indicates we'll learn more about Suicide Squad and get the full breakdown on what the studio is making.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I think because they haven't really shown any other Warner Brothers titles at any of the other non E3 summer events, and I think that's because they were still up in arms about whether or not Microsoft or somebody else is going to buy them. But I think this is going to be interesting for me to check out because I've never played any of their games.
They are
I know
fantastic.
Everybody else has. I at one point didn't have an interest, and then another point I was like, I'll get them when there's a big collection of them, and then I never did.
Totally worth it. Actually, I think the Arkham collection is available on Game Pass.
If that's the case, I might have to catch up.
It's totally worth it. Like, I really can't recommend a better series of games. Each game is worth playing. I didn't play a lot of Arkham City. Arkham Asylum I really liked, though I never have gotten it 100%. Arkham Knight, I came very close to you getting platinum. Really enjoyed the shit out of that one.
This new game, the worry is it's going to be a games as a service game.
It wouldn't surprise me because my imagine is you'll probably have a roster. It'll probably be in some way similar to
the Marvel one.
Yeah, but just a little bit more refined with the combat mechanics. Because Rocksteady, if they do anything right, they do combat right.
Now, the other games I know people are waiting to see at this DC event is some Lego game. Was it the Star Wars one that's going to be like every Star Wars thing? I think?
The Skywalker saga, yeah.
Yeah, and then do you remember that there was that Harry Potter game that was leaked?
Yeah, and then J.K. Rowling came out as a TERF, and then everybody shut up about it.
So they believe that's going to be shown off there because the one thing about that game was it looked really good.
Yeah,
from the screenshots and everything that leaked, it looked decidedly next gen.
Hopefully, we'll see. I mean,
they may actually hold it off till next year.
They really should because honestly, the Harry Potter fandom needs to get sorted away from JK. Honestly, what should happen, in my opinion, and this will be my very quick political sandbox opinion, Warner Brothers should buy the property out from JK outright, and she can go rants on her Twitter and blog all she fucking wants, and let someone else take over.
It's such a lucrative property that they should just offer her like $200 million or $250 million and say go away.
Yeah, pretty much. Because
if she says $1 billion, even at $1 billion, it's worth it because of the property.
Yeah, because if you use it and utilize it right, just do what they did with George Lucas. Here's money. Go away.
You go away now. You want to go to your coffee shop, type up all your shit, rant all you want, and be hateful on your own. Just please go away. And Warner's going, go away, please. Please go away now. You You go, here's some money, go do a whole bunch of cocaine and die or something, please.
I wish I could remember what the killing curse was from Harry Potter. Havava Cadaver or something like that.
It
Either
was
way,
like
fuck
abracadabra, blah, 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 disappear into that friggin' mirror thing.
off. Just fuck off. So anyway.
Yeah, it's like exactly what, it's like whatever happened to, what was it, Harry's uncle, just disappear.
Just fuck right off. So the big story, the big elephant in the room this week, we're not talking about the story because the story keeps constantly developing, and I don't feel confident enough to talk about it because it involves a lot of legal things and weird language we don't understand.
Yeah, so basically you all know the article. Shit's happening with Tencent, and we don't know what's going to happen yet, so we'll talk about it next week when more comes out.
Yeah, because basically, in short, for those of you that don't know, in short, the government in the States wants to block all access to TikTok and WeChat, but that involves Tencent, but that overlaps with Riot Games, which is League of Legends, Fortnite, and all that shit. Like, there's a lot of money at stake here.
Yeah, how it's worded, it could be interpreted in such a way that it would affect like 30% of all media in the States.
Yeah, so
because that, which also does highlight the fact that should you be allowing a foreign country to control that much of your media from an investment standpoint? Probably not. Like in Canada, we have protections that don't allow a lot of foreign countries to own that much. There's exceptions for England and a couple others because we have trade deals with them, and that's fine. But like, I don't know if I was the super capitalism country that America is, I don't know if I would want one of the only communist superpowers to own that much of my country.
Plus, they haven't been too hot diplomatically in the last bit. I mean,
yeah, it's been a lot of back and forth, and we're not going to comment too much on it because we don't know till the dust settles what's going to happen.
Yeah,
but just know that it could hold up not just games; it could hold up a lot of movies and TV.
Yeah,
if they block it and then China were to go, fine, we're pulling out all of they don't have enough of a controlling stake, but they could pull all their money out, and then trillions of dollars evaporate.
Yeah, bad things could happen. So we'll be watching the story. I'm going to look for maybe an article that explains it a little bit better in the coming days and weeks ahead. So
we're not political analysts. But we are keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, because this does affect our industry as well. So that's pretty much going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News this week of ThisWeekInGeek.net. And we're going to take a brief break here on the show, and we're going to go to a place where no one has gone before. We're going to take a look at the Modiphius latest supplement for Star Trek Adventures. This is the Enterprise character sheets, which you can find over at their website and drivethroughrpg.com. Take a listen right now.
Up until about 100 years ago, there was one question that burned in every human, that made us study the stars and dream of traveling to them. Are we alone? Our generation is privileged to know the answer to that question. We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
Hey guys, Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk about another review about one of my favorite RPGs coming to us from our good friends over at Modiphius, who provided a review copy to us. I am looking at Star Trek Adventures Enterprise characters. That's right, we have finally traveled back to before the birth of the Federation, and we are aboard the Enterprise NX-01. So this has Archer, Mayweather, Commander T'Pol, Dr. Phlox, and this is everything you've wanted from having these player characters in your game. So if you're a big fan of the Enterprise series, which I think is actually getting a second look now that people are in quarantine and they're looking for stuff to watch, they're maybe giving this series a second look. I know I am, because I've always enjoyed Scott Bakula. I had a big crush on T'Pol back in the day. Plus the Borg episode, despite what anybody tells you, is fantastic. However, though, you are here to learn about what some of the characters are and what they can do. Of course, you get new talents for like some of these characters. Archer has one I really like. and that's called Spirit of Discovery. Archer has drive, spirit, and courage to voyage into the unknown. He may spend 1 determination to add 3 points to the group momentum pool. The normal conditions for spending determination still apply. So that's something that you could kind of change things up for in your game. One of the ones I really like is Tucker's, and he has this ability called Jury Rig. Whenever Tucker attempts an engineering task to perform repairs, he may reduce the difficulty by 1 to a minimum of 0. If he does this, however, then repairs are only temporary and will last only a single scene, plus 1 additional scene per momentum spent, repeatable, before they fail again. Jury-rigged repairs can only be repaired once, and the difficulty repair of ice that has been jury-rigged increases by 1. So if something breaks, you can fix it temporarily, and if you've got enough points to fix it, then you can do something with it. This is something that I quite didn't know, because they include a little bit of a fluff piece, a paragraph and change about each character, and I didn't know Reed, because I'm not too familiar with this series, has the traits human and section 31. Didn't know that. I also found out that this guy's responsible for personal force fields, modern ships alert protocols, stuff like that. I think that's actually pretty friggin' cool. I didn't know Hoshi was responsible for developing the Universal Translator. Again, maybe I've slept on this series maybe a little too long, and I really should be checking out. My favorite character from Enterprise, from what I'm aware of, is Dr. Phlox. I just have a real attachment to the medical and science teams on almost any Star Trek show. So really cool to see getting his own character sheet here if you want to integrate him into your crew. You also get the Andorian guy. Can't really speak a whole lot to him. And the neat thing that I like about this is you actually get stats for the Enterprise NX-01. And I didn't know that before tractor beams, they actually use like grappling cables and magnets, and there wasn't photon torpedoes as we know them. They were photonic torpedoes, which are a little bit differently in how they handle the matter-antimatter explosion. So that's pretty cool. And then they didn't have shields as we understand them in Star Trek. They come from a different technology which has evolved, and I guess is a lot more primitive back then. So that's really, really, really cool. So if you want to pick this book up, you can go to Drive-Thru RPG, for example, and pay like $5. So for the cost of a slice of pizza and a pop, you can get yourself a whole new batch of characters and a new ship for you to run around in the Star Trek Adventures game. If you want to set this before the birth of the Federation, you can do that. You want to send Captain Archer into the Delta Quadrant, the face of the Borg. Here's a hint, it's not going to end well for them. But hey, who knows? They beat the Borg once, maybe they'll do it again. So anyway, if you want to pick up this wonderful supplement from Star Trek Adventures and Modiphius, you can do that over at Drive-Thru RPG and many other digital storefronts for about $5.
What makes you qualified to be a reporter? I'm willing to violate anyone's privacy for my personal gain and then claim with a straight face that the public has a right to know.
By the hand of Zeus, what manner of deviltry is this?
I love fake alien poop day.
All right, welcome back to us here at ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Alex, the producer. Well, it is time to give you your weekly dose of the strange, the unusual, the paranormal, more often than not, they're just plain fucked up, and believe me, I got those stories in spades this week. Let's talk about some of the things that happened around the world this past week. So, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has bought the XFL from Vince McMahon. Johnson and partners paid $15 million for the bankrupted football league before striking it big.
You know what?
What?
This is probably the only good thing that could have happened to that league. It can be used for... I think it'll be, if he wants to use it as an actual football league, it can be done that way as like a feeder league to the CFL or the NFL or the AFL or something like that. Or more likely, it can be used like for like reality TV shows, a whole lot of stuff for his like $7 Productions, or what is that what it's called? His production company, something like that.
You would know better than me, yeah.
Yeah, like there's so many and he has a working deal with Warner Brothers and HBO
and Universal, I think too, right?
Universal and Warner, he has really good deals with. Like he's had Ballers for 6 or 7 years or something on HBO. Jumanji with Universal. He can use it for
Fast and the Furious
for entertainment purposes, but also sporting. Like he was a CFL player. A lot of people forget that he didn't play in the NFL; he played in Canada. So, there's a lot of things he can do with it. He knows the game. Unlike Vince McMahon, he knows football. He played football.
Yeah,
he has
because
a love for football. His show Ballers was about being a sports agent for football players. So there's a lot of things he can do with it, where it might not be something where like Vince was trying to compete with the NFL. This could be a completely different enterprise.
So, according to the story, before striking it big as a professional wrestler, Hollywood megastar Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson played college football at the University of Miami. Now, in a strange bit of serendipity, Johnson is set to oversee his very own football league after purchasing the XFL from former WWE boss Vince McMahon. Johnson, his ex-wife and business partner Danny Garcia, and Redbird Capital have acquired the XFL's parent company Alpha Entertainment for $15 million, according to the Hollywood Reporter. The acquisition of the XFL with my talented partners, Danny Garcia and Jerry Cardinelli, is an investment for me that's deeply rooted in two things: my passion for the game and my desire to always take care of the fans, Johnson said in the statement. With pride and gratitude for all that I've built with my own two hands, I plan to apply these calluses to the XFL and look forward to creating something special for the players, fans, and everyone involved for the love of football. In her own statement, Garcia said the partners plan on developing the XFL brand into a multimedia experiences that athletes, partners, and fans will proudly embrace and love. Following the initial launch and failure in 2001, Vince McMahon rebooted the XFL in 2018. However, less than 1 year into its existence, the league was forced to cease operations due to the novel coronavirus, declared bankruptcy, and was put up for sale. I think this is good. Now, I remember hearing somewhere that they said the production turnaround time for the XFL could be remarkably quick, and I think they could be ready to go as early as next year.
Well, they didn't. Yeah, like they didn't shut the teams down. They shut the league down. So they're all still signed to multi-year deals.
Yeah,
so they're ready to go. Like a lot of those players can't just go to the NFL or somewhere else. But I did find it funny that they put out this article about him playing in college. He played in the second biggest professional football league in Canada, but they don't ever mention that.
What team did he play for?
Was it Rough Riders? Saskatchewan, maybe?
I don't know. It's weird. I used to watch the Grey Cup as a kid. Don't know why. I just did. And I'd watch the Super Bowl for the commercials. And I remember watching the Miami Dolphins after Ace Ventura hit it big, because Ace Ventura didn't understand 90% of what was going on. So,
yeah, I'm trying to see here. Calgary Stampeders. That's what it was.
Oh, that's cool. Neat.
As a linebacker. So yeah, like people, they forget that though. It's like, why don't you mention that? That is the second biggest league.
I had no idea. So this next story, it's kind of weird, but follow with me. Coming courtesy of FoxNews.com and other outlets. A British man who lost his penis to a severe blood infection now has a new one built onto his arm.
You said that so straight. Who lost his penis? Like in my head, I'm going, ah!
It's like that song by King Missile, Detachable Penis. So
it's like, what happened? I lost my penis to a blood infection. Oh my God, that's so bad. Don't worry, here it is.
It gets weirder. So Malcolm McDonald, whose surgeons were able to add an extra 2 inches to his manhood, is now awaiting final surgery to transfer it to the right place, reports say. The 45...
Wait, that's an option?
Oh, yeah. But
so
he has to have like a pump in it and stuff.
So if I tell him to chop Mr. Happy off, I can say, grow me like Mr. Happy +2.
It gets weirder because I've seen things. So the 45-year-old had some kind of an infection, I can't pronounce it, that had worsened into sepsis, and soon after he saw his fingers, toes, and penis turn black, according to a report.
Yeah, he had an infection. Commonly referred to as dick rot.
Oh, it gets stranger. This part is utterly horrifying. So he says he was completely gutted when his penis fell off in 2014, though his testicles were still intact, the outlet wrote. He reportedly nicknamed the appendage Jimmy and can now find humor in the situation while awaiting the final procedure. Of course, it is mad having a penis on your own, McDonald told the outlet. Not even I am used to it, but when you think about it, it's actually amazing. Professor David Ralph at London's University College Hospital has expertise in penile reconstruction and built McDonald a new penis out of a skin graft on his left arm. The Sun wrote, a tube and a hand pump are said to allow for a mechanical erection. The man already has 2 children, so he wasn't concerned about fertility issues, the outlets wrote. It was always more about my self-confidence and simple things like using the loo, McDonald told The Sun. When McDonald was due for the operation to transfer the new penis to the groin area, he was reportedly unwell and it was pushed to a later date. The coronavirus pandemic further added delay. The man hopes to have the final surgery by the end of this year, he said. Now, some of the other things that I actually read about this, he at one point was gowned up, ready to go, just outside the OR. Then they had a staffing shortage. I've gone through major surgery, as have you, and unless you have the proper team there, nurses, anesthesiologists, surgeon, your surgery can be pulled minutes before you're able to go.
I was lucky not to have that happen, but I also know that, like, I mean, I'm not somebody who's scared of doctors or anything, but when you're being wheeled in and, you know, they give you stuff to calm you down, and there's a team of like 15 people. Like in my case, there was, because when they do operations on people that are of a larger size, they have to have a crack team of anesthesiologists there to make sure that when they put you out, that you wake up.
Yeah, like it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. If you're above, it's not even BMI. If you're above 250 pounds, they have to monitor you more. If you're above 400 or 500 pounds, they have to call in a team, because the amount that they have to give you to keep you out will also make it so you might not ever wake up. So there's that. And you know how fast they move in hospitals and how everybody has to be in their place. So if it's not the right surgeon with the right team, like in some cases, if they, you know, the one doctor's not available, they pull another doctor in, they may not be skilled enough to do the surgery.
Yeah, like for mine, I had to have a very specific vascular surgeon do mine. And I was a guinea pig when they did my amputation of my leg back in 2017. He had his resident perform the surgery, but he was like the top guy in the area. So if my surgery had a staffing shortage, it just mean that resident wouldn't have been there, but he could have done it. If the guy wasn't there, I would have potentially gotten worse. So hopefully this guy gets his life back together. Now there is a video on Live Leak, and you can see this.
Oh my God, I have to see. Why did you not share this with me?
Because certain dark knowledge should just be kept.
Is it because you know I'd find a way to make it the background of your computer?
Please don't.
I won't.
I'm not even kidding.
I promise I won't do that. That's kind of like, you know, friendship ending stuff right there.
Yeah.
What if it's an animated GIF and I make it smile?
No. However, this next story, I'm really curious to hear your perspective on this, because you know all things wrestling. So former WWE wrestler Marty Jannetty appears to play...
he's full of shit. He's full of shit.
Okay, so this is reported by People.com.
Oh, yeah, they'll report it, but he's known for...
making shit up?
Not being...
forthcoming? Truthful?
Sane.
Yeah, he claims
is a nice term.
According to the People.com article, he claims to have killed a man who attacked him when he was 13. According to a quote from the Columbus Police Department, Joyce Dent Fitzpatrick, we are very shocked at the post and are taking it very seriously, and we are looking into it. Georgia police are looking into a social media post on the account of former WWE wrestler Marty Jannetty.
He was the tag team partner for Shawn Michaels before he had a solo career.
Okay. In a message posted Wednesday to the 60-year-old's Facebook account, the poster alleges he was attempting to buy marijuana from a man who worked at a Columbus bowling alley when the man attacked him. And this is his quote. I never told no one this, even my brother Gino, the post reads, because Gino would have killed him and I didn't want my brother gone. He'd only recently come home from Vietnam. I was 13 working at Victory Lane's bowling alley buying weed from a fuck that worked there, and he put his hands on me. He dragged me around to the back of the building. You already know what he was going to try to do. This is the very first... He
used more colorful language than that. But it basically, it doesn't add up. think of this logically here. For one thing, if he said he killed the guy, telling his brother wouldn't have allowed his brother to kill him. You know what I mean? He's already dead. So there's logic hole there. The idea of going to buy weed from a gay man that works at their same place, and then having him during his shift drag him outside to potentially rape him. That's what he said. Then he kills him at 13. He kills a fully grown man, drags him somehow to the body of water, dumps him in, and in 47 years, nobody finds the body. Nobody questioned that this man never came back to work. Nobody saw it happen during the shift. He just disappeared during a shift and never came back. Nobody ever wondered where this man was. Didn't pay rent. Didn't have anybody looking for him. No, you know what I mean? There was no report ever made.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. So the Columbus police said, "We are very shocked at the post. We are taking it very seriously. We are looking into it. We jumped right on it when we got it. It's a serious allegation. It's a serious post." Dent Fitzpatrick says the case has been assigned to a special victims unit detective who also handles cold cases. Right now, we're looking at it as a missing persons case. We are trying to reach out to people who may have been there during that time frame or know something about someone missing during that time frame to give us insight. Dent Fitzpatrick says detectives will be focusing on the years 1973, 1974, and 1975. It's going to be very daunting. We just need some time, and a lot of people are helping. Dent Fitzpatrick says detectives have yet to reach out to Janetti about the post. The alleged confession has since been deleted. The former wrestler could not be reached for comment by people. And there is a number should you have any information about this.
Yeah.
Let's say that something does come with this, because you're saying there's all these logic holes. If this did happen in the 1970s, sometimes people just went missing. It's possible, however unlikely.
During the day on their shift, in broad daylight, disposing of a body.
It happens.
As a 13-year-old scrawny, he's not a tall man. He was a junior heavyweight in wrestling. So this would have been a kid who was like 110 pounds.
Maybe he stole a car.
Okay, so you're saying he killed this man, was able to carry a man who was easily 200 pounds into a car, drive away, dispose the body, somehow get it to sink to the bottom, make it back, and nobody sees this happen. Nobody wonders why neither of them are on their shift.
Well, he does mention the Chattahoochee River. And if you dump a body in a river, it may not sink to the body. It may go downstream and decompose.
It's just, if you had said this was in the 1940s, maybe,
yeah,
but not by the 70s. It doesn't make sense. And he's also been known to be so full of shit by everybody in the industry. Says he's full of shit, that he's made things up in the past. But if you make this up, you can be charged.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this is a pretty serious thing to fuck around with. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I mean, hopefully nobody died, but mind you, if you're going to try and hurt a kid, well, make up your own mind.
I'm not. This isn't a case of me being like,
you're questioning the source.
Yeah, questioning. Yeah, this isn't a case of me being like, I don't believe the abusee.
No,
it's like, no, this is.
There are serious questions.
Highly improbable.
Yeah, there are serious questions that need to be answered. So
if he said he was like 21 and this happened, I'd be like, a grown ass man would probably know how to dispose of a body. I'm sorry, but a 13-year-old before the days of the internet.
I don't know. I've heard stories from back home of people doing terrible things.
But being able to live your life this long and never tell a soul.
Depends on how badly you value your freedom. But then again,
but he's again somebody who's been known to say
be
things.
A loudmouth.
Yeah. So it's again, if it really did happen, he should just be thrown away.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, yes, he might have been defending himself, but it's still murder.
Yeah, murder's still murder. So wait and see what happens with this. So moving on to a story that me and Alex both found on the same day. This one comes courtesy of TheGuardian.com. A nudist bather who chased a wild boar near a Berlin lake after it stole his laptop was applauded by onlookers after a successful pursuit. The photographer who captured the drama said the unidentified nudist was happy for her to share the images, which showed him in a bare-bottom pursuit of the boar and her 2 piglets, while fellow bathers looked on in amusement. Nature strikes back.
It's the most Florida, Alabama shit I've ever heard, but happening in Europe.
Nature strikes back, said Adele Lauder, a personal coach on Facebook. I showed the man the photos. He laughed heartily and gave me permission to make them public. The man was sunbathing naked at the, I can't pronounce this place, in West Berlin, a popular and perfectly legal practice in the German
I was
capital.
really going to hope you were going to try to attempt it.
Oh, fuck. I couldn't even think.
German, I don't blame you. German names are not the easiest to do.
The place that it's called, though, is FKK, and can't pronounce it, but it stands for Free Body Culture. The wild boar sightings, of which have become increasingly common, had apparently spotted a pizza being eaten by other bagels. It seized a yellow bag containing the man's laptop, probably believing it to contain food, and was chased by the man into the undergrowth. Because the bag contained his laptop, he gave it his all, even though he was in his birthday suit, explained Lauder. The boar's flight was slowed by a cardboard box in its path. The man clapped his hands and hit the ground with the stick, prompting the boar to drop the laptop. Another witness, when he returned from the forest, everyone applauded him. Derek...
Stop that pig! He's got my laptop!
Do not look at the browser history!
Somebody please help me! Get him! And I'm full of chocolate! And he's running...
Now, it's weird. There is more to the story, but all it says is this another guy who is the Berlin's ombudsman for wild animals told local news media that such incidents have become increasingly common, and foxes have also become regular visitors to Berlin's lakeside resorts. We urge people not to panic in such a case. We have so far had no injuries. The animals are quite used to humans. Now, this brings up another story I was going to mention this week, but I think it's from an older point in July, so we can't use any older stories. But it's about a fox, and I want to say it was Berlin as well, who had a collection of like hundreds of shoes that it stole from people's porches.
You know, that's the start of a really good or really terrifying Grimm's fairy tale.
I was thinking, you know what? It's almost like a weird sequel to Fantastic Mr. Fox by Wes Anderson.
But like this is one of those things where it probably ends with a bunch of children dying because it's Germany.
Speaking of German, we're going to continue on with this last story. I guess this comes from you. And if you could post a Facebook video of this, it's so strange as I don't even know how to explain it. Hacker Patrick of Patrick's World demonstrated his new Baka Wurstakhover or something. But what this is, I can't even believe I'm going to say this out fucking loud. It's a set of 10 Bockwurst sausages that were hooked up to a computer that sound like the keys of a piano.
Oh, you know what? What does that make you think of? Does that make you think of
Daddy,
Freddy
would
Got
you
Fingered?
like some sausage? Yes.
Daddy, would you like some sausages? Daddy, would you like some? God, that's a terrible movie.
I love it because it's so dumb. Look at the deer. Look at the...
Good God.
Buy the fucking Deutschmarks.
Tom Green was famous for like a year
A hot
or two.
minute, yeah. And then, you know what? He made it really far on Celebrity Big Brother.
And you know what? I'll give him credit. He ended up turning his TV show back into his basement, going old school, and it's been successful. So
yeah, he goes live on Instagram like a shit ton. And I think he became really good friends with like Kato Kalin on Big Brother.
Well, and he predates like Jackass and all that. He's probably the first of that style. He was like, Americans only know him from MTV around like 99 or so. Wasn't it around that time when he started doing stuff over there? But like mid to early 90s, he was doing stuff on like local Rogers cable access here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. I mean, he's beaten cancer. He married Drew Barrymore at one point. He's had a pretty interesting life. So good on you, Tom Green. And you've inspired people to create sausage pianos. So Alex,
And
don't forget to post a video.
What was that music video he did that was sort of popular? Was it the Bum Bum song?
I think so, or something like that. It was something weird. So anyway, that's what we got going on for this edition of the Weird News. And we're going to close things out with a final review coming to us from our friends over at DK Publishing Canada. This is the Marvel book. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
I am Iron Man. You think you're the only superhero in the world? Mr. Stark, you've become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. Who the hell are you? Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
Hey guys, it's Birdman here, and I'm here with yet another review of a book that you probably should be reading this summer quarantine. Man, it feels weird to say that, but hey, it's 2020 and the dumpster fire continues, but that doesn't mean that you can't expand your knowledge of all things cool and exciting. And we have a review from our good friends over at DK Publishing Canada, and friendo Chris sent over this book, and that is the Marvel book, Expanding Knowledge of a Vast Comic Universe by Stephen Wycheck. Now, what I really like about this particular book is it does talk about a lot of Earth 616 and its heroes, but also does talk about some of the multiverse heroes like the Exiles, talks a little bit about Miles Morales, who you may recognize from Into the Spider-Verse, and characters like that who have come from different planes of reality. And what this is, I guess the most succinct way to put this is a pocket wiki and a really cool reference guide. It doesn't go into super expansive details. Like, you're not going to get multiple pages on, say, the Winter Soldier, Vision, or Ultron, but you will get a fairly good write-up of, say, 1 page, maybe 1.5 pages for, say, the Sentry, or Daredevil, or Kingpin, or Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. A lot of characters that have come to the forefront from the Netflix shows, from animated series from the last few years, definitely influenced by the MCU, stuff like that. Because Marvel Comics, obviously, it has arguably never been bigger than it has been in the last few years, though I haven't really read an actual Marvel comic book in a really, really, really long time. Let's just say I fell off around Civil War. When that happened in the mid to late 2000s, I was like, wow, so don't know what the hell's going on anymore. And this book covers a lot of cosmic events, which, yeah, this is something I didn't know. Evidently, the current universe we're in is like the 7th or 8th universe. And they actually talk about how Doctor Doom essentially became God and merged the universes, and that's why Miles Morales is now just a part of us now. That's just a thing that happened, and you're just supposed to accept that. So it's kind of cool to have a reference piece like this, because if you're a super casual fan like me, having a book like this kind of gives you at least a jumping off point for you're like, hey, I want to know more about Silk. Silk was a character introduced in the Spider-Man comics who was bitten by the same radioactive spider that Peter Parker was, but she got locked in like a room for like 10 years, so a spider guy who eats totems couldn't find her, and after they kill, I think his name was Moreland or something like that, she decides to join Parker and fight crime in New York City. So I didn't know that. I just knew there was another spider person named Silk, and she looked cool. I didn't know that. I also found out some stuff about Jessica Jones that wasn't covered in the Kristen Ritter Netflix series. So it's really neat to have this to catch me up on things. There's a lot of things I just didn't know. They talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. and its technologies. They talk a little bit about Molecule Man, who was a really wimpy character in the Fantastic Four, but can basically erase reality if he so chooses, because when you can control things right down to the molecular level, there really isn't a lot that can really screw with you. They also talk about the origins of Galactus, the Watchers, stuff like that, and I didn't know a lot of the cosmic history of the Marvel Universe, so that's covered very, very early on in the book. But they also talk about Captain America, and everybody loves Steve Rogers, because, hey, he's America's ass, and stuff like that. One other character, and this is covered right at the very end of the book, I've seen the artwork for years, and I've heard people talk about her. Gwenpool, and evidently she exists outside reality, and she knows that everybody in Earth 616, or this multi-universe plane of existence, is a comic book character, and she is tasked with kind of like protecting us, but if she doesn't, she turns into a merc. It's really, really weird. So again, I like this. The book is over 250 pages, features some fantastic artwork in it, obviously taken from the source materials, such as they may be. The entries, like I said, are bite-sized. You're not going to get overwhelmed with things, although I did have to reread some of the early universe stuff to really kind of get it, and detailing the superflow, where the Asgardian realm fits in with the macroverse, the dark verse, and so basically where the realms of reality exist. It's a cosmic pizza, is a good way to look at it. So anyway, can I recommend this book? I think so. If you're a super casual fan, I really think this is kind of a way for you to get into Marvel if you're really digging what Marvel's throwing down. Obviously, we have the Eternals coming up. Black Widow is supposed to be released in theaters at some point this year. The Avengers game from Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix drops in September. The beta's going on this month. So it has been a really good time to be a Marvel fan. Now, you can pick this book up for about $25 US or $32 Canadian. I think it's worth it. I think it's a wonderful reference material. It's a good jumping on point for a lot of people, and it's something you should definitely check out if you are a fan of the House of Ideas, and as they say, make mine Marvel.
I'm Bruce Nolan for Eyewitness News. Back to you, fuckers.
All right, well, that's the kind of show it has been here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We've actually had a lot of fun this past week following a lot of stuff that has been happening on the site. This past week, you saw my interview with Doug Naylor, the co-creator, writer, director of many things Red Dwarf, including the new BritBox release, Red Dwarf: The Promised Land. You can stream that exclusively on BritBox. Fantastic. Definitely made me a fan of the Red Dwarf movie. Glad that the AI Holly is not in charge of my computer.
And you've I've been doing a rewatch, but you've been doing a first watch of Todd and the Book of Pure Evil.
Yes, we just finished the first season. We just started the second season the other day, so hopefully we'll finish that sometime in the next week and a half. I'm trying to think of what else. Other than that, I have a lot of reviews to come up in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Hope we can have a lot of my stuff cleared out. So, but be looking for a lot of RPG reviews from Modiphius, because you know what? You can play over Discord, Zoom, or any other streaming platform, which is wonderful, because you still should be, keeping your bubble small. Sure, things are opening up right now, depending on where you are. But
and same here. Like, I got a lot of movies. You got a lot of books. I got a lot of movies from Milk Creek and from Vinegar Syndrome.
So there's going to be some good stuff coming up. So
and we're both actually playing the beta of the Marvel Avengers. You already started it. I haven't started it yet, but I'm playing a little this weekend for the beta. And we're probably not going to do a prototype on it, but on the next show, we'll probably give our impressions of what we thought.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, we're also recording a loose cannon with Aaron Paulier this week. We're going to talk about the Vinegar Syndrome release of the Angel movies, kind of a exploitation, sexploitation starring a...
It's like, what if Charles Bronson movies were starring a woman teenage / college age revenge flick stuff?
Yeah, it's surprisingly entertaining and surprisingly heartfelt at times, if you can believe that, considering the subject matter.
First two are the same director and writer, then the third one is somebody else, and then we found out there's a fourth one that's not part of that collection because a different company released it, and Aaron and I have already watched that, and it's wildly different.
So we'll be talking about that rather soon. Me, Aaron, and Aaron recorded a Future Imperfect on the our favorite sci-fi video games, where you hear me probably get some facts wrong about Halo and Mass Effect, but I basically give you short essays on the topics and why I love both franchises.
The facts aren't wrong if it's how you remember playing them.
Yeah, so I want to try. I know me and Alex have talked about forever playing the Halo games, and I want to do that before Halo Infinite comes out, just to get myself caught up. And so we'll be talking about that rather soon. You've got a Turd or Treasure coming up in the next few days, right?
Yes, I believe so. As long as I record a couple things myself, there'll be some movies in there, and then you've got a bunch of stuff for me there, and then we'll have again more movies and stuff. I've got to determine. I think with the Vinegar Cinema stuff, half of the stuff we'll do as loose cannon. I still have a few that I have to edit for the eventual relaunch of Twig After Dark, because they sent us some of the classic erotica stuff again, and it's about filtering through and making sure we can do the review everything but the porn part, which was the funniest part of it.
So yeah, we'll be talking about all that and more. We will also be doing another Twig Sunday Funnies rather soon. We're hoping to record next week. We'll have to see how our schedule holds up, and we're going to be talking about our favorite super teams that you maybe aren't necessarily paying attention to. So we're not talking about the Teen Titans. We're not talking about the Avengers or the X-Men. I want to talk about the other guys, people you may not have heard from other companies you may not have maybe not have even considered. So we'll be doing that with JT from Saskatoon real soon. So that's going to do it for us, for me and Alex. So for ThisWeekInGeek.net, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at thisweekingeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at thisweekingeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.